Want to now get our exhaust nicely natural metal finished up. So what I'm going to be using is what is a great set of paints we can use for getting natural metal finishes is Mr. Metal colours. Stainless steel's a nice colour that we can use. Just give it a good shake. You've got to make sure all the sediment is off the bottom, and you can see that just at the bottom because it's nice glass to see through. Make sure you get all that off, right, because that's all the good stuff and you want that. Have a kitchen paper towel on standby because this stuff really does run everywhere. And it'll probably run down your colour cut, down your cup like it has here. Always does it without fail. One thing to remember, we need to keep our air pressure about 10-15 psi. Right, we don't want it too high, we don't want it going all kind of rough. And what we want to do, we can just quickly spray the inside just a little bit, we don't need too much. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to now lightly misty coats all the way around. Remember, light misty coats, nothing heavy, nothing too harsh. Build it up slowly and lightly. Alright, now it's going to look a little bit darker than you probably want it because the magic happens in a bit. I'm just building it up nice and lightly at the moment to get a nice good amount of coverage, just like so. Give it a quick little blow dry. Let's just put it down for a sec like so. I'll just blast that out to the end of the colour cup, and then what I want to do is I want to give it a bit of a tinge of copper. I want to do this because if you look at reference photos it looks like a nice kind of sort of almost, shall we say, gunbolt metal kind of dark kind of steel looking, but then it's got a bit of a tinge of like copper in there. So what I want to do is again make sure all the sediments are off the bottom. Now this bit of spraying, you want to be careful. You want to get your biting point. Right, what I mean by biting point is we press our trigger down to get air, and then we will pull the trigger back to get paint. Another little tip as well, make sure you put the lids on straight away because it really does evaporate very quickly and it is very expensive stuff. Right, so what we want to do here is try and remember our biting point. Right, so to do this, what we want to do, we pull down for air, but then we slowly bring back the trigger very slowly, and then there. When you start seeing that bit of paint coming out, that's what you want to get. You want to have that biting point where it just starts coming out, because we want this to go on very transparent, very lightly. So I just want to get that biting point, and then just put this kind of very, very light, very misty, sort of a haze of this copper all around. Right, I do not want it to completely cover and make it all look really copper-like, because then we're going to ruin it. It's just a very light, very misty haze of copper. So just remember that biting point so that it's just coming out. And what we can do, we can probably speed this up, blow it dry. I mean, it does dry very quickly. You might want to leave it a little bit longer than what I am about to now, but what we're going to do, get a cloth, and then I'm going to just lightly start rubbing at it. Right, just lightly start rubbing at it and go all the way around. Right, just like so. Let's bring you in a little closer. Right, we start off nice and light. Doesn't like to be rubbed it really hard straight away. And then as we've going round it and we've rubbed at it, what we can do is we can then kind of get a bit harsher, shall we say, rub it a bit more. And then what happens is, as you rub at it, it starts to really kind of shine up, as you can probably see here, which gives it that really nice metally finish. Just like so. Right, now I think that's looking pretty good. We'll give it one last little kind of rub around, because if you kind of maneuver the cloth and sort of change it to a cleaner area of the cloth, it shines up even more. Right, now we could rub at this loads and loads until it really gets mega shiny, but I don't want to, you know, push my luck. Well, to be honest with you, I don't want it to be mega shiny, because I mean it is a bit dirty at the back. So I'm now bringing in our model. What I want to do is I want to check, because we've put on copper here, I just want to make sure we've got enough copper actually on here, which I'm not sure we have. I just want to make sure it's the same, looking the same. I think we're okay. I don't know, I think we could do with a little bit more copper. So let's just quickly give it a little bit more copper, because our other exhaust is looking a bit more coppery. Right then, got our exhaust looking pretty nice. Now here's the tricky part, because they don't really go on, shall we say, very willingly. So we just want to be careful, because I mean our model is very on the delicate side with lots of little pieces here and there, and we've got metallic paint all on our hands. So we really don't want to be touching the model much with our hand here that's got metallic paint on, because if we do, we're just going to smudge metallic paint on, because this will just smudge everywhere. What's on my hand? I should probably wash my hands, and you should probably do that as well, but I'm taking a little bit of a risk. Now that is on quite nicely, and what I want to do now, I just want to give it a little bit of glue, some nice Mr. Cement S, just a little bit. It doesn't need a lot to keep this into place, not a lot at all. Maybe a little bit of a push, get some on the other side. I'll do the bottom off camera, but I just want to show you what else we need to do to this to finish it off. Right, so we want to give it a little bit more life. Right, so to do this, we're going to get our pin wash that we made when we was doing all our pin washing. Going to open this up, make sure you shake it, get all the sediment off the bottom, and then we're going to do a pin wash. But we're going to be very careful, and we're just going to get in. Let's get you in even closer. We're just going to get you in, get this pin wash into all these nice little recessed panel lines that is actually on our exhaust, just like so. I'll kind of do the rest off camera, but I'm just going to show you this little section, and then what we want to do, cotton wool bud, just like we would any other wash, and we're just going to rub off where we've kind of pinned it and it's kind of maybe gone outside our recessed panel line, just tidying it up just like so, and then that'll give it that nice extra little touch, and it should look like this one this side then. And I hope you can agree, and this is why I leave these natural metal finish paints till last. If I come along and I'll put a matte coat, well, a gloss coat, a matte coat, and all those kind of things onto these exhausts, you wouldn't get this nice shiny natural metal finish that you're seeing going on here, because a gloss coat and matte coat will dull down this nice natural metal finish that we have. So by leaving it till last and leaving it bare, I mean, okay, it is unprotected, but it just gives you so much more of a nicer finish. We're now going to look at putting on some remove before flight tags, and they are photo etched, so we need to remove them properly from the fret. Now the thing is with these is what we're going to do, we're going to end up bending them, so we don't have to get all kind of fancy and putting them on a proper kind of cutting mat for photo etch and kind of doing all this kind of stuff, because we're going to actually bend these bits of photo etch to kind of represent fabric. We can actually just kind of, you know, cut to the chase, don't mess about, and we can get some scissors out just like so, and we can just give them a nice nip and get however many we want off. I'm just going to cut 3 off. Well, let's cut 4 off to start with. with them now cut off, what we want to do is just get them all nicely trimmed up. So getting some nice decent quality tweezers, what we're going to do, we're going to butt up our bit of photo etch right on the end, just like that, so we can nicely protect it. Metafoil, right, and we can just kind of nicely, slowly get those tabs nicely sanded back and looking all nice and neat. There we go, and that's been nicely sanded back, nice and neat, to get rid of any tabs that are going on there. We've got another one with a photo etch at the top as well. The whole point of these tweezers is to kind of stop you sort of really bending it and allowing you to actually sand away at this bit of photo etch. So now that one has been done, what I want to show you is the last kind of bit of getting this ready to go on the model. Now, I did use fuse wire in the past, which was nice and strong, but I wanted something more thinner, so I've got this Plus Models lead wire, and here it is, the 0.2mm. Right, this is some good stuff to actually get your hands on, because it's also good for any kind of scratch building. Right, and we just need to get out a nice little strand of this. We only need a tiny little strand. Now what you've got to remember is as well, because this is lead wire, right, it is gonna break pretty easy if you bend it too much. So we kind of want to get this right the first time. So we've got a little bit of a hole in our bit of photo etch, which we can just nicely thread our bit of lead wire through, like so. And then what we can do is sort of like pinch it so as to bring our two pieces of lead wire together now. Now I don't know how well you're seeing this on camera, because we are getting pretty fine, but we've got two bits of lead wire here now because we've poked one through. Right, and what we can do now is sort of get the both of them and then start carefully turning our bit of photo etch, right, to then kind of like twist our, see, now this is why I say you've got to be careful with the lead wire, because it will break very easily. So you don't want to be pulling at it too hard, too much. Just nice and light. So feed that through. I can probably show you this again now. Feed that through to then kind of bring our two pieces of lead wire together, and then we want to very carefully just twist it, right? Now as you saw what I just did, it is quite easy to break the lead wire, so you've got to be careful. Right, and I think that's good enough before I end up breaking another one. So then we've got a nice bit of a lead wire to give us our kind of what they use to kind of wrap this around the aircraft. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut this to length with some scissors, like so. We don't need it that long, and hopefully, as you can see now, we've got a nice bit of photo etch with a bit of scratch building on there, so as we can kind of glue this on and have it dangling down. But what we can also do, just to enhance it even more, is we can actually with our fingers just bend the actual photo etch. This is why I say we don't have to worry when cutting off the fret about bending, because we're gonna deliberately bend this now to give it that kind of fabric sort of look of sort of flowing in the wind, that kind of stuff, and it's actually something fabric and not something what it is, which is like a metal. So now we've made our nice remove before flight tags. What you want to do is go off and make some more. What we want to do now is get some super glue out, get our vital bond kicker out as well. So I'm just putting a nice load of super glue in our little plastic pot tub lid thingy here that Cocktail Sticks had it. So let's get another one. And what we want to do now is getting our tweezers, because this is going to be quite delicate. It's one of these things where we need more than one set of hands. But what we're going to do is we're going to try and get our bit of lead wire to nicely kind of hook somewhere. Now it's always good if you can find a place where you can actually hook the lead wire into something. In fact, I've just done it there. I've managed to actually just hook that bit of lead wire between our sidewinder and our pylon. That way it's held into place very nicely. So what we can do now is get this bit of super glue, right, and we can just put a little dab and let the suction of the super glue suck into the actual lead wire and kind of get it in between our sidewinder missile and our pylon. So that's kind of going to be nicely in place. We can get a bit of kicker, give it a bit of a squirt, just to make sure that is nicely in place. Now we want to make sure that is going to be done. Blow it, and hopefully we'll give it a bit of a wiggle. That ain't going nowhere now, because I know some people are very, very delicate with the when it comes to remove before flight tags, and they just fall off left, right and centre. I like to give mine a little bit more super glue, right? But that is basically it. Now I'm going to kind of go off and I'm going to finish this off now by putting more kind of remove before flight tags on, you know, landing gear, weapons, all those kind of things, and that is it. We are done. So I'm just going to get this last final bit done off camera. So here we now come to the final conclusion stage of the F-14 Tomcat step-by-step video build, and it's been a whopping like 25-26 episodes. It's been a long journey for me and for you probably as well, hours and hours and hours of footage, but we've finally got there, and I'm really chuffed with the end results. The whole advanced spraying, advanced weathering that went into this really has paid off. I don't know how well you're going to pick it up on camera, but let's try and get you in nice and close. But hopefully you can see that we have this very nice kind of weathering, streaking and everything going on here. I mean, you can see it a bit more on our wings here. Hopefully is we've got the salt technique patches going on here, which makes it gives it that kind of nice weathery look, but it's not too much in your face. I mean, I didn't go too far. I mean, it just seems to give us a little patch here and a couple of patches here and there. The whole pin wash technique that we use, where we filled in the panel lines and give this nice light streakiness, the whole matte coat now has brought that out a bit more. It's lightened things down, it's brought all this kind of weathering we've been doing and the salt weathering technique, and hopefully you're seeing that now. Now, I mean, I said I was going to weather this to the max, so that you can then kind of decide how far you want to go, and kind of, you know, if you want to tone it down, you can tone it down. But actually I think it's turned out not to be mega over weathered, but actually a nice front line kind of F-14, so I'm quite chuffed with that. Now the kit itself, let's have a look at the kit. I mean, final conclusion, now that I've built it, I can give you like a bit more information. So let's have a quick run through the instructions together, just to give you a conclusion. Now the cockpit went together actually really nice, really damn good for out of the box. Kind of what was it, we did a bit of scratch building to kind of put some covers. I don't know if you can see these brown sort of covers just inside the cockpit. Let's get you in. Right, remember that bit of scratch building we did there? We had to do that because there was just nothing there with the standard cockpit, but I mean, it was still pretty good for out of the box. No real fit issues. However, you know, we did have all this Gatling gun system where if you wanted to close all the doors like I did, you do have that bit of a problem of, you know, once they've been designed to be open, you try and shut them and you have to come along with filler, sanding, scribing, all those kind of things. But actually, as far, well, when it comes to most kits, that is always a problem, but this kit didn't do too bad. I mean, it was still a bit of a problem to rescribe and everything, but it didn't do too bad actually. for this kit, because I mean it is quite a common problem for everyone. Again, slats, if you want to close something, again it's always going to be a problem, but this kit wasn't too bad, but you still had to tackle it. Moving along, air intakes. I mean, if you're gonna, when fitting the air intakes, just dry fit, bit of a sand, you know, and get it just to fit nicely before you glue it, and you should be fine. If you don't, you could have problems there. Going through a bit more, no real issues with landing gear. Again, the exhaust, I mean, there was a little bit of a problem here where, I mean, when you kind of fit the exhaust inside, it's not very much of a kind of it's a little bit almost guesswork. I mean, it was almost 1 mil too far out, which then created problems. It kind of needs to be about, you know, about 1 mil or 2 inwards a bit more, so kind of take your time when putting in the exhaust. Again, I mean, with our cockpit area, I think my cockpit was kind of put in maybe a bit too raised, because then it had problems with kind of putting the canopy on, because the cockpit seemed to be a bit raised. So when fitting your cockpit, you know, try and make sure it's in right, it's in properly. Maybe do a bit of dry fitting and stuff, because it was I think it was quite easy to kind of get things slightly out of alignment with the cockpit and the exhaust. So just keep that in mind when you do yours. Other than that, I mean, okay, we did have a problem again. I mean, if you've watched the videos, I mean, the pylons for the Phoenix missiles, it doesn't tell you to drill holes if you want to do free fall bombs and put the pylons on a pylon. So just kind of remember that. You've got to kind of think about it. But I do show you how to drill the holes if you've accidentally glued the pylon on. So those were kind of like the problems, but really I don't think they were like that bad, to be honest. I mean, there were problems, it just wasn't like, there wasn't like no nasty major fit issues or anything like that, you know, so I wouldn't worry too much. I do think this is the best 1/48 scale Tomcat you can get in this scale, so it definitely is a, you know, recommended kit. Now when it came to spraying, you know, yes, I did go to town, did go advanced, did do lots of bleaching, post shading, all those kind of things. It did take more time, it was more effort, but it does pay off. The whole decaling side of things, the decals were, you know, I did use some aftermarket decals, and as you could see, they went out on rather nice, not too bad. I didn't use the actual kit decals, I don't think, but I don't think they were, I think I might use 1 or 2, but they weren't too bad. And the weathering, as you could see, we went right to town, we kind of did loads and loads of weathering. And I think it has paid off. Although it has been hard work and quite a journey, I do think it has paid off. So if you want to kind of attempt these techniques, you can attempt them, but I mean, you don't have to go as far weathered and spraying and everything that I've done. I mean, you can tone everything down if you want, but all in all, it has been a damn good kit, and I do think it is better than the Hazagari. But by only a bit. I mean, the Hazagari has its problems, this kit has its problems, and I think those problems are just down to the shape of the actual aircraft itself, because I mean, we have got this big fuselage section, right, that comes into 2 halves like so, which then we have this nose section, 2 halves coming together, putting the nose section in. If you look underneath, you've got all this kind of shape with, you know, the whole kind of air intakes and exhaust. It is quite a bit of a complicated shape, so in some ways I'm willing to kind of give the manufacturers of these kits, you know, a bit of a leeway, because it is a complicated shape, and I think all the manufacturers are having a slight problem because it's so complicated, which is why you'll find that there are kind of little fit issues with, you know, the Hazagari. Even with this new HobbyBoss kit, it just can fall short a little bit here and there, but I think that is because the actual aircraft is a bit of a complicated shape. But where the HobbyBoss beats Hazagari is value. This kit, you know, I mean, it's about £50. You get all the weapons, you know, whereas Hazagari's is you don't get any weapons, so you have to buy more weapons, and it actually costs more than this kit as well. So that is the HobbyBoss F-14D Super Tomcat, which the F-14B and the A that HobbyBoss has released is just the same kit, so you're basically going to have exactly the same. There's just one or two tiny features that are just a bit different, like the engines, and there's some sensors under here as well. So that is now the end of the step-by-step video build for this F-14 Tomcat. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a great journey. I've loved, well, to be honest with you, I've loved it, but I mean, it did get a bit kind of, I lost my enthusiasm for this at one point, but then I watched a load of videos and kind of re-got my enthusiasm back for doing an F-14, and it's been a really damn good build. So I hope you've enjoyed. So until the next video build, my name's Bobby Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I hope you've enjoyed.